Welcome everyone. This class is geared towards my pregnant mamas. I like to consider it the foundational breath. And so while it can be done at any given point, I find it is especially supportive both prenatally as well as during our postpartum. So we'll be going over some basic breathing mechanics, and then we're going to sync that with some anatomical cues for core activation. So oftentimes when we think about our core, we bring to mind this aesthetic six-pack at the very front of the abdomen, but our core is actually more of a barrel shape that wraps around the entire torso. And today we're going to specifically be working with our transverse abdominis, which wraps around the lower back and side body, as well as the lower belly. And so it's the deepest core muscle in our body, which helps to contract and flatten the front of the belly, but it also acts as a stabilizer. And so when we engage this, we'll not only stabilize and strengthen through our core, as well as our back, but we'll even support our pelvic floor. And so I'm going to be using the term pelvic floor throughout the class because it's something that we hear and use often. But I'd also like you to think of it more as another diaphragm at the base of the pelvis, or even the image of either a trampoline, or I like to think of it or envision like a woven basket. Because just like our diaphragm, when we breathe, there is this sense of buoyancy and movement that happens in our pelvic floor. And we really want to work on not only engaging it, but also softening and releasing it, which will be really helpful during birth. So I'm 24 weeks pregnant currently. I'm hoping that you'll be able to see a little bit of this core activation, especially once we come onto our hands and our knees. But the majority of the class will actually be done seated. I'm sitting up on a bolster. You can sit up on blocks. You can even come into a chair and bring the soles of the feet firmly to the ground. If you're seated on the ground, I'm also going to invite you to come into more of a hero's posture. So the knees come forward and the outer ankles rest towards the outer seat. And what this does is it turns our femur bones into an internal rotation, which will then widen the sitting bones and the whole bowl of the pelvis, which can also be really helpful during birth for widening that pelvic outlet. So finding your comfortable seat, resting your hands in your lap, and allowing the eyes to float closed. And to begin, I'd like you to just take a few breaths here. And as you do that, feel into where you are breathing in your body. And so we have 3 zones of respiration: our shoulders, our diaphragm, and our belly. And ideally, when we're breathing, the shoulders stay relaxed. And we actually breathe more laterally into the ribs, and the belly stays relaxed. So let's bring our hands to the ribs. You can wrap your hands around your sides. And the first image that I'll use here to work with breathing laterally is an umbrella. So as you inhale, think of the umbrella expanding open, filling up your ribs with your breath. And as you do that, the belly softens. And as you exhale, the ribs relax back to the center. The umbrella closes. So inhale, filling up the side body. Try to keep the shoulders soft, and as you exhale, the ribs relax. And so if it's a little bit new to you to find this more lateral breathing, and it helps to keep the hands on the side body. You can leave them there. Otherwise, bring your hands back down to your lap. And another image that I personally love is a jellyfish. So as you inhale, imagine the diaphragm as the shape of a jellyfish, and the diaphragm descends towards your belly as you inhale, allowing the belly to relax, the sides to expand, and the tendrils even reaching down towards the bowl of your pelvis, relaxing through the base of your body. And as you exhale, the jellyfish rises back up as the rib cage softens. So inhale, jellyfish diaphragm descend, belly relaxes, ribs also expand. As you exhale, everything softens back through center, and the diaphragm lifts back up. Taking about 3 to 5 more breaths like that on your own. And as you maintain this breath, I'd like you to bring your attention down now to your pelvis. So first, the bone structure of the pelvis, which is kind of like a shape of a diamond. You have your pubic bone at the front. You can think of this as north or 12 o'clock. You have your tailbone at the back, south or 6 o'clock. And then you have your sitting bones from side to side, east and west, or 3 and 9 o'clock. So as you inhale and the diaphragm descends, the rib expands, the belly softens. Think of the structure of the bones at the base of your pelvis, northeast, southwest, also widening a little bit. And as you exhale, just imagine those bones softening towards one another and even up the spine as the diaphragm lifts back up. Taking a few just like that, just imagining those bones widening, expanding open as you inhale, and softening back towards your midline as you exhale. Carrying on with that breath, and we'll add one more thing. We have 3 openings at the base of the pelvis. We have the rectum at the back, the vagina in the middle, and the urethra at the front. And usually when we think of lifting and engaging our pelvic floor, it happens between the front and the middle. But we want to work with all 3 of these areas. And so something I learned from a friend and teacher, Nikki Bergen of the Bell Method, was imagining lifting a marble through the rectum, a blueberry through the vagina, and a flaxseed through the urethra. And as you do that, the transverse abdominis, your lower belly, even the sides and the lower back, everything will start to almost engage like a corset. So we're going to add all of that together. As you inhale, diaphragm descends, ribs expands, belly, floor of the pelvis blossoms. And as you exhale, marble, blueberry, urethra, lower belly draws in as the diaphragm rises. And then inhale, diaphragm, ribs expand, belly, floor of the pelvis blossoms open. If you're doing hypnobirthing, you can think of a rosebud or a flower blossoming at the floor of the pelvis. And as you exhale, everything draws in, blueberry, marble, your flaxseed. Good, carrying on. Let's do about 3 more cycles like that. And if your eyes are still closed, feel free to blink those open. If you're in a chair, we're going to come onto the ground. If you're seated, we'll make our way onto hands and knees in tabletop position. So again, finding a nice alignment here. Shoulders over ribs, ribs over hips. You can also think of head over heart, heart over womb, womb over pelvis. And we'll take a few cycles of that breath now in tabletop position. So we've mostly been breathing through our nose. Another way you can try to work with this breath is a little bit more Pilates style, where you exhale through the mouth. So as you inhale, diaphragm descends, ribs expand, belly, floor of the pelvis relaxes. And as you exhale, lift marble, blueberry, flaxseed. And I'm going to take a few like that, inhaling through my nose and exhaling through my mouth. When we find this exhale, you can also think of hugging your baby. This is a term we'll come back to over and over again throughout the prenatal classes. Beautiful. Let's do one more just like that. And then bringing the knees wide, the feet together, finding a child's pose, walking the arms forward, relaxing the head. And take a few more breaths, blossoming open as you inhale, and contracting, hugging the baby, engaging your core as you exhale. Inhale, come back up through tabletop and finding a seat. So that's the basic foundational breathing. I highly recommend practicing this throughout the day. So I love to do it lying down on my back. You can even do it standing. And then even throughout your daily activities. So if you have another little one at home, You could think of finding that exhale and core engagement before you lift them up, or if you're going to be carrying groceries or lifting anything, really, you really want to work with that exhale and engagement of the core before you lift up, and that'll give you a really nice, strong base to work from. You could even do it while you're lying in bed, doing the dishes, really any time throughout your day. And then we'll continue to practice this throughout the other classes, so that you can continue to refine it. Thank you very much for practicing, and have a beautiful pregnancy.